The British economy has suffered its first back-to-back slump since the COVID outbreak, heightening fears that the country is heading for a recession. According to the Office for National Statistics, the gross domestic product fell by a bigger than expected 0.3% in April. The economy also registered a drop of 0.1% in March. Output in the services, production, and construction sectors fell. That's the first time all main sectors have shrunk in over a year. Prices are rising at the fastest rate in 30 years, driven by record high fuel and energy costs. The Bank of England has warned the UK is facing a sharp economic slowdown and inflation of over 10% by the end of the year. I'm going to let me invite a couple of guests and shed some further light on this and get some insight. So our own Said Puriza joining me from London, and Fra Hughes, journalist and author and activist from Belfast. Good to see you both, gentlemen. Now, Said, you live there. Tell us how serious this is and how do people feel about this?
Well, this is significant, Beirut, and how people feel about it is born really by these figures. As you say, this is a decline that has been seen in the services, the construction and production sectors. It's unusual, something you would see at a time, for example, of a national lockdown, a 0.3% decline at a time when it was a 0.1% growth had been expected, and it comes after a 0.1% decline of only a month earlier in March. What this basically means that there's less money going around, people are spending less, and businesses are investing less, and that potentially means fewer jobs. And looking at the cause of this, for example, there are domestic reasons, factors, and there are global factors. Domestically, you're looking at the ongoing Brexit saga, the disruptions that have been caused to the supply chain since Brexit happened, the cost of living crisis that people are grappling with, which has led to people spending less, particularly after the raising of the cap on energy prices. You looked at a more than 50% increase in energy prices for households, as well as fuel prices. For example, to fill the tank of an average family car right now, you will have to spend 100 pounds, a new record set only last week. So people are spending less and businesses are investing less because there is uncertainty about the future. And there are global factors too. The post-pandemic global commodity prices that have gone up are a contributing factor to this, exacerbated. An example, of course, of those commodities, cooking oil, grains, as well as oil and gas, right. Exacerbated or worsened by the military conflict in Ukraine, and worsened still by the support by American and Western support for the prolongation of the military conflict in Ukraine as we speak. So there's a lot of uncertainty. But does this all mean that we're heading for a recession? Probably not, because you have to have 2 quarters of negative activity in the economy. That's 6 months. We haven't had that just yet. But is it going to get worse? Yes, probably in the near future. But there are other economists here saying that inflation is going to be halved starting the beginning of next year, Beirut.
Now, gentlemen, let's see how people have reacted on social media, and I'll get back to you. So the first one goes, let's start getting real. The Johnson regime is crashing the UK economy. We have another post, clearly all caused by the massive spike in energy prices. Government must take more action against the energy sector. Richard Taylor said changing the Prime Minister was an option, but Conservative MPs decided not to last week, so the misery and decline will continue. And no one says huge recession on the way. The government is masking the real inflation rate, which is apparently closer to 20%. Tough times ahead, and it's generally all down to lockdowns. And Scott Slater says, we as a society got exactly what we voted for. Why are some people waking up confused how this happened? It happened because of who we voted into the government. If we elect the incompetent into power and influence, then expect the result to be incompetence. It's a no-brainer. Okay, now let me ask Fra Hughes regarding this last post on social media, because there and there was another one also, and some more, that many people are blaming the Johnson government for most of these problems. And also, Fra, you also kind of mentioned maybe his support for the sanctions on Russia over Ukraine. So, in your opinion, how far would you blame the Johnson administration for this situation?
Well, absolutely. I've already alluded that it's a political choice. It's nothing to do with a world recession caused by financial kind of misregulations by the banks that we had in 2007, 2008, 2009. This is a political choice by the first world countries, by the whole of Western Europe and the NATO-aligned American countries. You know, it's very much self-inflicted. But the problem is, I think no matter what the people do, even if people come out onto the streets, demand a change in the political direction of the government, that won't happen. We all know what needs to happen is the sanctions need to be lifted. Ukraine and Russia must come to a ceasefire and an agreed way forward about the future and neutrality of Ukraine, and you know, allow the world really to recover from the COVID pandemic, which we're really just beginning to emerge from. But the reality of what should be done, what must be done, and what will be done are completely separate, because the people who run the government, many of them are millionaires. They care nothing for ordinary people, and they care nothing for the troubles that people will find themselves in, the difficulties that people will find themselves in. So what should be done and what will be done, there is a huge gulf between those two things. And I fear very much that the war in Ukraine, which is a proxy war through Ukraine by America upon Russia, is not going to end anytime soon. It's not going to end well. And I think we are really just entering a phase of geopolitical instability within Europe that's going to have huge global ramifications when it comes to famine, food shortages, food prices, energy prices. I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, and I think we're in for a very long, hard, difficult road.
Okay, thank you so much for the insight and input. Said Pureza in London, Fra Hughes in Belfast. And thank you for watching this episode of News Review on Press TV.